It was supposed to be just another quiet evening at the city's most luxurious hotel. Guests sipped champagne in the lobby, the soft hum of a grand piano filling the air. But that calm was shattered when two officers stormed in, eyes locked, on a well-dressed black man standing near the front desk. They didn't ask questions. They didn't pause. Within moments, they were shoving his hands behind his back, accusing him of causing trouble. What they didn't know would change everything and leave the entire room frozen in disbelief. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Malcolm Pierce was no stranger to success. At 42, he'd built an empire of real estate investments, turning crumbling buildings into thriving businesses. His crown jewel was the Grand Wellington, a five-star hotel in the heart of the city. That night, he wasn't a guest. He was the owner, quietly observing operations from the corner of the lobby. He wore a tailored navy suit, his gold cufflinks, catching the warm light as he scanned the room. To most, he looked like an executive winding down after a long day. But to some, his presence didn't fit the image they expected in this space. When a call came into local police about a suspicious man loitering in the lobby, it set in motion a chain of events Malcolm could never have imagined, a moment that would test not just his composure, but the city's conscience. The officers entered with a kind of force that immediately drew stares. Their radios crackled, their boots striking the polished marble like a warning drumbeat. Malcolm noticed them instantly. He'd dealt with law enforcement in business matters before. But this was different. One officer pointed directly at him, his expression fixed with assumption. "Sir, step away from the desk," one barked, hand hovering near his belt. Malcolm barely had time to respond before the other officer moved in, grabbing his arm and twisting it behind his back. Gasps echoed through the lobby. "I think you've made a mistake," Malcolm said evenly, though his pulse quickened. He glanced toward the concierge who stood frozen, torn between fear and duty. "This man's been causing trouble for guests," the officer announced loudly, his words dripping with certainty. Malcolm's mind raced. Was this happening in his property? The thought stung. He saw guests pulling out their phones, recording every second. His staff whispered in disbelief, some stepping forward only to be waved back by police. "Check with the manager," Malcolm insisted, his voice steady despite the pressure on his wrists. But the officers didn't budge. They started leading, him toward the doors, their grip tightening as if he were some dangerous intruder. And then, just as the cold night air brushed his face, the hotel's general manager came sprinting across the lobby, his face pale, his voice trembling with urgency. "Stop!" the manager shouted, skidding to a halt in front of the officers. Guests froze mid-step. Cameras kept rolling. This is Mr. Pierce," he stammered, his eyes darting between the officers and Malcolm. "He's not a guest. He owns the hotel." The words hit like a thunderclap. The officers' hands loosened instantly, confusion clouding their faces. They glanced at each other, then at Malcolm, as if suddenly realizing the magnitude of their mistake. Around them, whispers turned into a wave of shocked murmurs. The weight of the moment hung heavy, the humiliation sharp. Malcolm's eyes stayed, locked on theirs, a silent question burning behind them. Would this have happened if I looked different? The officers mumbled apologies, but the damage was already done. Malcolm didn't yell, he didn't curse. Instead, he straightened his suit, looked them square in the eyes, and said, "You'll be hearing from my lawyers." The incident went viral within hours. Thousands shared the video, sparking outrage and debate across the nation. For Malcolm, it was a reminder of a painful truth, that success, wealth, and status don't shield you from prejudice. Standing in his lobby that night, he made a promise. This wouldn't just be another viral moment. It would be a push for change, because the question that lingered in every viewer's mind was one he'd carried his whole life. How many more times will this happen before something changes? Where are you watching from? Take care.